With no further ado, something I've been looking forward to since I guess I instigated it. I'm grateful to all the presenters, so let me say that now. And also, the ones that have presented and one that will present now, Bob Armstrong. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And one thing I made a note here, this is not how I intended to start, but one of the things is the mention of Rochester Fourth conferences, Larry Forsley's conferences. I wonder just sort of what piece of history caused me to be consulting at Xerox in APL when I heard of Fourth, and then it turned out that there was this, that the University of Rochester and his laser, this big spherical laser thing with a whole floor full of capacitors was Fourth, and so that's sort of been the connections, little piece of history. Okay, one of the things is, first thing, F1 gives the help, okay? First, that's the first answer. And one of the things is F11 inserts a timestamp at the cursor. So starting this, I'm hitting F11, which not only put down the timestamp, it saved everything. My first opening thing is, when you're thinking of using Python, oh, I don't have my, shoot. Let's replay that with screen. Okay, is that, oh, and I always forget to hit that share button. Let's play this. Act like this isn't there. And but let me go, and my notes from today, this is where I was mentioning the Rochester Fourth Conference, and I'll skip that on the redo, but just come up here and hit F1, show help, and F11 inserts a timestamp. So I will hit F11 and put in a timestamp. Okay. Oh, except that's not where I wanted to put it. Anyway, that's now a piece of history. Okay, this intro to CoSY is, as always, presented in CoSY. This is CoSY. And my first ad is when you're thinking of using Python or some other mass market language, think of trying CoSY instead. It is open fourth and more powerful. And I'll point out, it's the APL level. APL evolved through K. And you'll be helping to develop an openly fourth environment that is useful at the level of Python or whatever else somebody might use. Now, I'm going to, one of these, here. One of these other special purpose key really is Control F9, which opens a URL. So Control F9. Here's my answer to Kevin's Kevin's question, and he sent me this thing on the IBM computing cheese cutter. which I took this screenshot of the mechanism inside this thing, this thing that apparently was marketed by IBM that cuts wedges of cheese of sort of arbitrary radius, and in terms of the weight, it gives you the angle that you need to go and get a certain weight of cheese. In any case, question 0 is answered by going to the directory, which is, I got it here. How do you download and start it? Okay, go to the index of 4th CoSY, and here you have CoSY zip, and the main things, the instructions for downloading, and make a directory, make it AKA folder for the CoSY. And this is something I noticed that Euroforth and apparently a number of forths have a problem of causing false positives on virus checkers. And here are the instructions for going through setting it all in Windows. And it's simplest to just do that on the target folder before doing it. Then download the zip file. And I did that the other day. I'll pull that up. And I didn't have any problem pulling it into the download directory. And then from there, unzipping it into the, I actually called that directory CoSY-D. I downloaded it into this CoSY-D directory, just everything. And it's got the shortcut in it, and execute the shortcut. And it starts up, and this is one of the things, this is size, so it'll fit on anybody's window, but I'm not gonna keep that copy around. Anyway, that gets you started. I mean, that should work. And if you have any problems with doing that, email me. Okay. Oh, and one of the things is to go and start that window in a larger size. Oh, to just review, and actually I've gone through, I know I've mentioned on virtually, whoops, I was over in that window. I've mentioned that I just return, it's just note taking. If I hit F6, it tries to execute it, and I just F6 this line here to start this CoSY job, which is essentially, except for the location, what you currently get when you download. And it has, I'll say one of the things, the first example is that, oh, that actually showed the value of the fact that the thing restarts, and some situations cause it. Okay, usually doing a save just fixes it, because it's kind of funny to say. And F5 goes and inserts the pencil. So now I have some calendar, F11. I've now started saving my notes, and that can be, whatever, all of this is saved. And I won't go through this, except I'll point out that I've tried to go and make some basic documentation in here, but I'll skip that and just go over here. And again, question 1, that was question 0, is how to download and get going. And now question 1, how do I save my notes and environment? Because that really is essentially the only way you make forward progress is by not forgetting the past. And one of the things here, you'll see Control S, which I used to clean up whatever the problem was over there. And that's that brilliance of it restarts on failure, or that Apollo 11 brilliance. Also, F6, whenever you execute anything, it saves the entire environment before it tries to execute it. Because one of the things is it's obviously trivial to write something that bombs. I mean, it executes directly in Riva fourth, which is an x86 fourth. And that's one of the things is for multiple reasons, to me, the value of fourth is going straight to whatever the chip language is and creating a dictionary which you can extend. Right. Also, F11 saves everything, puts in a timestamp and then saves an hour and minute timestamp. And these make a backup copy of the previous save before executing. Then also here at the top of the state window, permanent window, there's a save a timestamped clone. Because one of the things is it's all too easy to overwrite your backup copy, because the next time you execute something that gets switched out. So before you start doing anything like, let me F6 that, okay, now I have a permanent copy timestamped of this material. And I'll just preface here, this saves the root dictionary R as a CoSY file. What am I looking at? Question 2. The standard job environment has 3 windows, and it's got a result window, which you see here at the top. Let's see, I have this, I made an annotated JPEG, so Control F9. Here's a somewhat larger size image of it. First is the name of the file, which you can see up here. The last line executed by either F6 or Shift F6, which executes in raw fourth without going and outputting whatever's on the top of the stack. And then the res window, the result window, shows the result of the last execution, like you see right here when I executed this line right here. The result is it returns a list of those words. Let me go down, and then there's the text window in the middle, which I generally use as my log, like here, and I also have up over here, I have my working environment. You can see that that's totally what I've done day by day and evolving. All of these, by the way, these windows are all online in the directory. And then the bottom here is state. And this is useful. This is like just a mega menu, because every sentence that I have down here just about is executable. And so those are the 3 components. That's what you're looking at. Now, question 3. What does the CoSY vocabulary build upon fourth? Well, I see I have these 2 windows. Let me F9 that. This is it really is kind of surprising that seeing this talk on the Apollo 11 moon landing computer, which was so minimal. I mean, 1968, 67, and 68, it was being created, and I didn't even touch a computer. Oh no, I did touch it in 63, but the computers were so So what were their design principles? And design principle number one is use a high-level language. And that's why when I started having to do things and APL came on the CDC 6600 at Northwestern, I sort of had an additional tool. I mean, we had a PDP-8 lab computer, and that the time I wasted on that is what made me appreciate Chuck's brilliance with Forth when I saw what I could have done, what I could have accomplished instead. Okay, let's see. So that's the reason for a high-level language, and APL is the highest. I mean, Ken Iverson's notion his notion of simplicity was the simplicity of mathematical notation, and simplifying that and linearizing that, and starting from essentially the notation for matrix algebra, linear algebra, but tensors and whatever, the structures of mathematics. So, and one of the things traditional APL and dialogue APL really has got that market now globally, has complexities, brilliant complexities. His factorization actually of dot product was just brilliant, but actually it's gotten left behind in a number of ways. And Arthur Whitney went and who was, their families go way back, but Arthur, the age of one of Ken's sons, went in the direction of simplifying things and making the structure more transparent. So in CoSY, it ends up, CoSY is reference counted lists. And when the reference count goes to zero, returns to zero, it is freed. And at that point, it calls the Microsoft freedom. But the list simply has a three cell header. It's got, and I'm going to skip down to two quite important words. This little left tick you see me using returns the next word as a string. So it's like making a string. It's parse white space, and turn it into a string, as opposed to the standard, the fourth tick, which returns the xt, the address of the next word. And this tick, fourth tick, is what makes it relatively simple to implement APL operators, aka adverbs, like the iterators that I'll show. But let me get back to the structure of the lists. You've got these three items. Oh, and so, yeah, you see tick, reference count, tick, and this structure just goes and makes a list of words. It's tick, paren. You'll see various type creators. You've got, oh, there, that's what, oh, that was the pieces of the window. Okay, I've fixed that. Actually, I went and just added this to output in hex. This is a list of all the types. Oh, I don't want to skip. Let me get, I thought I had a line to go and make. Oh, I get down to that. These are all the types, and I had it output in hex. So And a couple of these really, the main thing, type 0 is a list of lists, and that's what's most important here. It's a list of pointers, if you will, to what is generally expected to be other CoSY objects. Otherwise, best case, you get a nonce. Worst case, you bounce. But you can see particularly a character type and an integer type, and that's and a floating point type. Those are the important types, really. And okay, yes, this is the order that I wanted to go. Now, so you can have a list. A list is a dictionary is a list of two correlated lists, names and values. And the entire environment is in a root dictionary named R. And let me execute this line, which goes and takes all of those. Oh, okay, yeah. Looking at the root dictionary R, it is going in on each of these items. It's saving that as T0, which you'll see in a moment. And then now here's where you get into the APL level of things, which I'll get down to below. It's that how do you go and describe an elephant when you got to sort of see it from a lot of directions. This evaluates each one of them, it evaluated each one of them and saved that as T1. And now one of the things is, since I saved these names as T0, oh, and this is something, by the way, I will go and interject here, which is another thing. One reason I chose Riva is because it has a vertical symmetric comment symbol. So there's T0. And let me now take back out the comma. And this is turning them into a list. I'll put the thing in here. That's a very Lispy type list. It took the first item and the second item and made a list of the two of them. And I've recently had a word that I find very useful, actually a family of words. That'll go and print that out and put a list like that out. It'll format essentially any table. So you see, R, the root dictionary, is a list of lists. It's got two items in it, and actually its reference count, which is not something that's internal, but that's how many other things are referencing the root. And one of the things, it'll never get down to 0, so it never disappears. But when you do a save, every time I'm doing an execution, it's doing a save on all of those items. So where are we? Okay, the names of all of the items in the roots, they're all names. Here they are. Type is saved as T0 again, and here's the first column. And actually, one of the things is I'm taking the rather than showing, because that contains everything. That's all the text you're looking at. That's everything else that's going around. So count, I think you can see, actually, this is the same as what Arthur uses for count, the number of items in a list, which obviously is the first, it's the second cell in the header. And this doesn't count on each of those. And so those are the size, and then I can put those together. And here's the size of each of these. For instance, where's text? this is in the order that they got. Yeah, okay, right now this text in this job is 24,000 characters. Important vocabulary. Okay, that was what the CoSY vocabulary adds on top of, particularly important vocabulary. It really has evolved a great deal from Arthur's K, and as of back some years ago, and that's one of the reasons why I include a reference to on any verbs or any anything you have wonder about in just in general as an overall structure, as an overall introduction to a lot of the concepts. I included, I have linked to Arthur's. This is actually by Dennis Shasta of New York University. But in any case, CoSY itself is about 962 words. And I've mentioned these two, this pair. And this saves, this tick I like so much because it so often, I mean, rather than having to go and have some string here, it's just tick the next, that's the word. And what are called atomic, should have been atomic. That's a notion from APL, which means that, and this is one of the things that, one of those things that needs to be done that I've not done because it's relatively well understood, is genericizing functions so that it would go and plus would go and take a look at, okay, what do I have? Integers, floats. But I like the tick paren, there's I paren, which returns an integer list. So here are the two integer lists, and here is integer add between them. So you can see what it did is it added the corresponding elements, and there's a large vocabulary, all your integer and float functions, for instance, your pluses and minuses and logics and all of that operate that way. Now, iterators, these APL operators or adverbs, they in a sense factor out looping. So instead of having to make explicit loops like you do in virtually all other languages, you have these words here, which using the count, it knows how long the loop is, and with type, it knows what the appropriate algorithms to apply are. And here are the main ones. And I'm using tick M, which takes a list and applies. Here's where the incredible brilliance and simplicity of Forth come in. This is right tick. I need to get some verbiage for this, but this is obviously the xt of the function : question mark, which goes through all of the scripts that are mainly down here. This is down here, it happens. And returns, well, with the colon in front, it'll return where these are defined as colon definitions. So you have monadic, each monadic, and each dyadic, and I need to, all of the documentation is right at the function inside of the script itself. So you have essentially, you have on a single list, on corresponding pairs on two lists, on holding the right item constant and operating on every item on the second versus each item on the second list, and tick right, which is the same thing, holding the left constant and the right constant. And those actually, that vocabulary got broken out by Arthur, very different. And dot slash is scan across, go and execute this across the list. This is scan is go and return partial values. Arthur would call that integrate. Tick colon is do things pairwise, iterate, go over the thing pairwise, and Arthur would call that differentiation. And this one is not an iterator. It just returns the first occasion on which the function that you handed is true. And that's a generalization of the word from APL. Well, I like tick so much, I even use it just to go and say, these adverbs take one or two nouns and a verb and apply the verb over each item of the nouns. And for instance, here's the definition of dot product. Okay, you've seen before that times F is like plus I. It's an atomic word. It'll go and apply pairwise. It'll multiply here in my example. I got, these are obviously floating point lists. It'll obviously multiply each of these in turn, and then add them across, add, and that again is like I say, across, sum across, or yeah, sum across. So that's the definition of a dot product. And so here, the dot product I get is 140. If I just did, actually, let me go and insert perhaps this. By the way, let me, whoops. Yeah, there's the products of the two, and then it added across, and then, yeah. To break that out, okay, into two pieces. So one of the things you can see, and I use CoSY, I mean, one of the first, to me, I can't work except in a environment like this, you know, interactive. Let me go and see it and do it and so forth. And one thing I'll point out is indexing is modulo, which for one thing, it means that you can never have any sort of a limits error or anything like that. And generally the shorter list is cycled through to match the longer. Like, I actually can show that pretty easily. If I just had one, no, let me do two anyway. You know, I got that. It applied two, it multiplied each of those by two and then added them up. The main help words are, this goes and returns all occurrences of a phrase in all of the script files. This goes and only returns one's beginning, the colon definition. Help goes and returns the Riva help on a word. And C, well, here, I'll go and execute again. I've got this list of words, and I'm just looking up the help on each one of them. So that got, where's help? I don't know. I'm not gonna, yeah, there's for instance, the definition of help, the definition of C, I'll leave it at that. You can get clever, because I'd rather just get through. One of the things, actually, I should go and point out something that blows people on the APL end of things mind is to be able to do something like and see the actual x86 code for, well, in this case, dupe. Because they just, you know, all other APLs are built essentially in C. And so you have that horizon below which you cannot see in any meaningful way. There's a large vocabulary of slicing, dicing, finding words, etc. Because more than anything else, I really, I don't have the time or the material motivation to do a lot of the more mathy stuff I'd like. So much of it is mailing lists and everything else. But one of the sorts of things to go and show the nature of the vocabulary is these words take that'll, I mean, this is sort of stuff that I use just during bank ledgers. CSV format is one of the simplest format. And this just takes two delimiters, a line delimiter and then an item delimiter, and turns, that's how I convert my bank ledgers. And one of the things is in terms of utility and importance of things, accounting, you can't run a business without accounting. You can't take care of your own business. And that's one of the reasons why the markets for APL, boy, I always haven't talked so much. All of the market for APLs ended up being money center banks. And I'm just going to end, I'm just going to point out one of the things that's quite useful. This bracketer here, it goes and executes the line in between and then returns it as a list. So here, this is the form of all of the accounting. It's from to, it's timestamp from to an amount. And so you see the underline F takes this off of the x86 stack and turns it into a CoSY one item floating list. And you see the same here and the ticks for the words. And so if I execute that, I get my accounting, my ledger entry. And one of the more complicated that actually shows abilities that are pretty clever is I actually have two accounts with the electric company. And so this allows me to go and I've got both of those. And then I can do arithmetic that will add them across when I'm doing aggregations and so forth. So actually, let me stop and any questions? Everybody is stunned. Study it later, whatever. And question 5, what is the future? And it's what I see is creating a cash flowing ecosystem and this transition to the fact that okay, if it bombs, it just restarts and so forth. And everything else is minor. So it really is somebody, I can hand it to somebody and they can use it and they're not going to get bombed out to DOS. They're just going to come back to where they were. A lot of that's not as fleshed out yet as I'd wish, but sort of need on clients on one side and the most talented programmers in the world on the other. And what sort of clients, those who need to do in minutes, well, it may take an hour in raw forth or do in days what it would take weeks. either prototyping or finished system. Again, it's work at a high level. And the thing that's unique in CoSY is that you're open all the way to the low level, if that's where you need, if that's what you need where you need to work. And you know, if you have, well, for all of the variations, I mean, other APLs have this notion of being compiled. And CoSY is just fourth, you compile a word, you make words, and you make sentences out of those words. And it is for multiple reasons. The simplicity of the syntax, having ticks, so you have the address of the next word, so you can hand that as a parameter to another word, to a verb. This is more powerful than traditional APL, more flexible, particularly more flexible. But one of the other things, because this is my interest, really is from the mathy side, and this is sort of not as clean and so forth, as if I had some motivation to do that. But for instance, making a voxel model of the planet to deal with all this climate change stuff. And by the way, let me give an ad for, go to my Facebook page or CoSY, yeah, my last blog. This German girl, Naomi Seibt, is just astoundingly brilliant, and for the voice for freedom, a young voice for freedom. And rationality. Much
to be desired. I guess
wow.
If there aren't any more points you'd like to make quickly or urgent questions, I'd like to suggest that you maybe take seconds more and we'll then stop the recorder. I wanted to ask you, yeah, I'll let you. Just for 1 second. I wanted to ask you to tell us what your fourth talk will be about. Okay, go.
Fourth day? I don't know. I mean, I sort of thought that this was gonna, you know, blow my wad on this and so forth. I don't know. Somebody give me a task to do.
To give this talk in maybe 10 minutes, if you can hone it down, the same talk to 10 minutes, you know, to give beginners a little path to CoSY.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you though, look, you know, I ain't gonna go and say, somebody go and you know, give me a task to do that they would like to see how it's done. And that would be, I think, far more valuable than anything that I can, you know, just sort of, I mean, a whole problem with this is that, I mean, CoSY is what I've created to be with no boss other than myself. So it's not something, you know, and it's that self-referent notion that it's only now really something where I can hand it to somebody and say, you know, hey, this when it bombs, you'll just be back where you were. It'll just burp.
Okay, well, we're in double extended overtime. So if there's any last quick point you make before we pull the plug on the recorder.
I hadn't realized it's been that long.
Hey, Bob, here's a quick question, maybe a dumb one. I just downloaded CoSY. How do I start it up?
I'm not getting the sound is not good.
Oh, sorry, Bob. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, sorry about that. I have to have my microphone on. How do I start it up? Okay, I just downloaded CoSY and extracted it.
Okay, so that's where he started talk. Maybe go to the YouTube video when it's up and you can watch like the 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You can go to the 4th mailing list, the FIG mailing list, where he published this.
Drop me an email, or we can Zoom together.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Right. Brad?
Whatever your experience is definitely exactly the piece that needs to be. Anybody remember Erica Zhang's Fear of Flying? The notion of ziplessness?
Hi, Brad. We start the recording with all due ceremony, but I think it's time to unceremoniously stop recording.
Okay.
Okay.
Go unplug.
Okay. Now, what were you saying,